So, welcome, Rebecca, to Raw and Cooked Vegan.
Yay, I'm so excited to be here.
It's great to have you, great to have you. I stumbled across your channel the other day, and you got some great stuff. You're just like going along gangbusters. It's awesome. So, can you start out by telling the viewers a little bit about your childhood? How much was your family aware of nutrition? Were they into diet at all? Were they clueless? Did you eat at McDonald's every night? You know, and a little bit about your fitness growing up.
Sure. Well, I was a competitive figure skater growing up, so I was a very serious athlete. And, you know, I think my parents did the best they could with nutrition. I think, you know, I was a child of the 70s. I think what people know about nutrition now is different than what people knew about nutrition then. And I certainly ate a lot of vegetables growing up. But I also did eat meat, not so much dairy, but I did eat meat in my house growing up. You know, I, on my own, became vegan many years later, and now my mother is vegan. And, you know, basically there's so much more information about the health benefits of a plant-based diet, aside from all the other reasons, environmental and ethical. But there is so much more information about how a plant-based diet is a healthy diet. But it wasn't so much when I was a child. I'm sure that if you looked for that information, you would find it sort of the way you would now. But at the time, it just wasn't so pervasive the way it is now, where every time you're turning on the news, you're hearing about people healing from type 2 diabetes and heart disease and obesity. Aside from all the ethical considerations, you really are hearing a lot of the health benefits now that certainly they weren't talking about when I was a child.
You know, it's a great point. You're giving your parents some slack. They did the best they could, and I think most parents do, and there wasn't as much then. And I remember, you know, McDougall's been around for a while. He's been writing books for a while, and it just wasn't getting into the broader consciousness. And I think lately it's really getting pumped up, which is great. So
that's the exciting thing now, because the information has been out there definitely since the 70s. But it wasn't on every public channel. You really had to go looking for it. And now, every time you're turning on Facebook or the news or the internet, there's information about it. And because so many Hollywood people are now exploring a plant-based diet for many different reasons and publicizing that, it's really getting into public consciousness, which is exciting.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, one little adjustment I think we might do, Rebecca, is if you can tilt your laptop just a little bit so that you're the other way. There, okay, yeah, that's perfect. That's excellent. That's excellent.
Okay,
great,
now,
thank you.
Wait, and we're editing this, right? This is not going to be in this. Or maybe it is. Okay, well, hey, you know, this is live. Anyway, excellent.
We can start over if you want, but really, these are informal, you know, so.
That's fine.
Yeah. All right, but, so tell me, it sounds like you're pretty athletic, so you're pretty fit, and your diet was relatively good compared to the average, you know, SADs. That's good. At what age did you start seriously thinking about removing animal products from your diet?
Well, when I did it, I absolutely did it the next day. I mean, when I decided to go vegan, I went vegan the next day. And when I first did it, it actually was for health reasons. I was a very serious competitive figure skater. I could do a lot of the stuff that you see on TV. The kids are better now than I was in those days, but for my time, I was pretty good. And I was supposed to tour Europe after college to do an ice show. And I couldn't even walk. I had this terrible, terrible chronic joint pain. And basically, everything that I did that Western medicine said would work didn't work. Physical therapy didn't work. Cortisone didn't work. I ended up even having knee surgery that essentially moved my kneecap, which did not work because none of that was the problem. I'm one of those people that had an inflammatory response from casein, which is the protein in all dairy products. And after 5 years, after my skating career was over, and I kind of went to business school and just went on with my life, I was searching for something that would work because nothing had worked, traditional or non-traditional. I tried acupuncture and some other things too. And I read this Scandinavian study about how a group went vegan for 6 months and reported an 80% reduction in their knee pain. And the next day I went vegan. I didn't even know.
That's 80%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And within 5 weeks, I was back on the ice. And I do share my story on yummyplants.com, mainly to let people know that if you are suffering from chronic joint pain or migraine headaches, and you go to the doctor, I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I don't want people taking my medical advice. I can just share my story. But all those times that I went to see people, no one talked about the fact that diet could be an issue. Some people have an inflammatory response from wheat as well. So rather than doing drastic things that have serious consequences, like surgery and other things, and sometimes we do have to do those things, but it is possible that diet could be causing that inflammatory response that's causing pain. And no one talked to me about that. So I just like to let people know, if you do it for 21 days and you don't see any relief, that's probably not what's causing it, but it could be. And that has really helped some of my friends. And it definitely changed my life.
That's great. I love the way you presented that. Very balanced. Okay. So in 3 weeks, you saw improvements there. Were there any other health issues that you kind of had as a kid that also went away?
No. I mean, I'm grateful I did it for health reasons initially. Now I absolutely believe that animals are friends and not food, and I don't want to eat them, even though I've been fine for many years now. But what I did notice, I did it for my knees. I did it so I could skate again. I was so passionate about jumping, and I loved that. But what I noticed is my skin started looking a lot better. My allergies went away. I didn't even do it for that reason, but it was a wonderful side benefit. I had a lot more energy. I slept better. So those were things that I felt really changed my health in a very positive way.
That's great. That's great. Now, before we continue on with that, can you tell us a little bit about this high-level skating competition? At what age did you find that you had this talent, and did this start to occupy most of your life, most of your free time skating?
I loved it since I was a child. When I grew up in a very small town. There wasn't a lot to do. My mom used to take me to the ice rink. And for the first couple of years, I was really awful, but I loved it. It gave me really great joy. And, I started skating competitively when I was 7,
Wow.
I don't think it started taking up all of my time till I was a teenager, and I moved away to Lake Placid to train at the Olympic Center up there when I was 15. Wow. But, I was pretty good when I was 12. I mean, for the time that it was when they still had the figure eights and the Olympics was won with like a triple cow, which is a kind of jump. I was already doing like double axel, double loop, which was pretty great in terms of jumps for that time. I was never as good as the people are now, but it was 20 years ago.
Oh, but still, it's amazing. A double whatever, what would you, double axel, and those. Tell us about falling from one of those.
Well, it's really interesting. I haven't skated competitively for many years, but because I used to skate 6 hours a day, and I used to do those triple jumps, you learn how to right yourself in the air. So, for example, when you are in the air, and if you're, a serious competitive figure skater that's at the level of doing those kind of triples, and you're off, let's say your timing was off, you didn't jump high enough, and you ended up like backwards, you can right yourself in the air. You see skaters that are tilted in the air, but they don't fall because they fix themselves. It's really interesting because even now in the winter, if I would like slip on ice or miss stairs and like fall and I'm in the middle of the air, I still right myself. It's really weird. I don't even think about it. I just notice it that like I slip, but I don't fall. Like I get myself back center and there we are. So falling, sorry, that was a little sidetrack because it's just really interesting for me that all these years later that skill is always there.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So when you're doing those kind of jumps, you're going really fast into them. It's part of what helps launch you into the air. I mean, timing and, position, all that other stuff. But you're going, one of the things I loved about jumping is it was like flying. I'm skating as fast as I can. I'm jumping as high as I can. And for that moment in time, it's weightless and it's beautiful. And sometimes it's beautiful, it's wonderful, and crash. You've got a lot of velocity and you're coming down on this tiny little blade. So,
on a very hard surface.
Yeah. I was black and blue a lot growing up because, what you see on TV, it takes hours and hours of practice and a whole bunch of falling down and getting up, to learn how to do that.
All right.
And make it look so easy.
Yeah. Now, you undoubtedly had coaches training you throughout all those years of intense training. What were they telling you about diet? Were they
Nothing.
telling you nothing?
We never talked about it.
Wow. So, and not even protein, like you need enough protein or,
Mm-mm.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay. All right.
But this was a long time ago. I'm sure it's better now. I mean, you see all these vegan athletes who are talking about, you know, how it's affecting their training and how much better their muscles are coming back. I mean, I think, you know, I think athletes now, they are talking about it a lot more. I really believe that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Now, how would you characterize your own attitude towards diet in these early years? Was it kind of like, this is what my parents are providing for me? Like if you went to go to McDonald's, that was no big deal. It's like, did you kind of think food is not that relevant? You know,
I think I thought food is not that relevant. I mean, you know, I was 26 when I went vegan.
Yeah.
So I think as a kid I was occupied with other things. The only thing I do remember, which is very interesting and really influences me to think that it's so important for children to have the opportunity to see like farm sanctuaries and animals that are pets, because when I was 5, I went on a school field trip to, I guess Amish country, because I'm from Pennsylvania.
Okay,
and
yeah.
I petted a baby lamb. I think my cat just went into the background. Anyway, you may see her. She's beautiful. Her name is
you can introduce her to the viewers. We'd love to see her, yeah.
Louie, come here, sweetheart. Well, she'll come. Come here, baby. Lou. Come on. Oh, she's in the back of the computer.
Fine. That's
she'll
fine.
come. Anyway, I went to Amish country. Hi, sweetheart. Here's Lou. Oh, baby.
All right. There we go.
She's not very happy. All right. She's an orange and white tabby girl, which is so unusual because most of them are boys.
Huh.
So this is Lulu. She's named after the sun god, the Celtic sun god.
Beautiful.
Anyway, I went to Amish country and I petted a baby lamb, and my parents ate lamb chops. That was one of the things that we had as meals. And so I remember coming home, and I think my mom had made lamb chops. And because I had petted a lamb, which is called a lamb, and we were now going to eat lamb chops, I said to my mom, "Is this a lamb? Like, are we eating lamb?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "I don't ever want to eat that again because I loved this lamb and it was so beautiful and I petted it and we were friends and I don't ever want to eat it again." And I never did, ever. But the interesting thing is, when you eat a hamburger, it's not called cow. And I think if it were, and I had petted a cow and loved the cow and bonded with the cow when I was 5, and then somebody said, "Oh, here's cow burger," I would have said, "Is this cow? I don't want to eat cow." So I do really, just based on my own personal experience, think it's such a tremendous gift to offer children the opportunity to see animals and to see that you can play with them, and the way you play with your kitty cat or your doggy, and they think and they have emotions. And I honestly think a lot of children don't have the opportunity to see that.
I think this is a very big point, Rebecca. Excellent point. And all these names we have for pieces of meat that do not accurately identify what it actually is. So huge point there. And it's cool that you totally gave up lamb from that point on. So, but the real switching to vegan happened in your mid-20s, 26, and I guess you said there was no intermediate vegetarian phase. It was from SAD to or a relatively healthy SAD to vegan. Okay,
Yeah.
and then within 3 weeks, you notice your joint symptoms are disappearing. You have other benefits happening, and can you tell us? It sounds like after initially making this choice because of health reasons, you started to become more conscious of the ethical reasons. So tell us a little bit about what you learned when you became aware of the ethics.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I am at this point in my life where I am now because we're always growing and changing and becoming more loving, spiritual, kind beings, hopefully. Where I am now, I'm really embarrassed that I didn't think about those things when I was young. But we are where we are, and we've all had our path. And what happened was I really did give it up purely for selfish reasons. I wanted to skate again. I wanted to jump again. I loved to skate, and I thought this was my ticket to do it. And thank goodness it was. But once I stopped eating it, I first of all realized I didn't need it. I felt better without animal products. But I also started to think about what does that mean to consume animal products? Whereas before it had been such part of my existence, I hadn't even taken time to evaluate what am I truly doing. And it was really interesting that once I took it out of my system and learned more about factory farming, because once I became vegan, at least from the eating perspective of what that means, I started, buying cookbooks and learning more about it and finding out about how we do factory farming in this country. And not that information wasn't there all the time. It was. I just hadn't looked for it, quite honestly.
Yeah, this is so big. There's this huge disconnect. People don't know these things are happening. So anyway, continue, yeah. Well,
actually, just a quick plug for Mercy for Animals. And that's why I really appreciate that they do, is it Mercy for Animals or Compassion Over Killing? One of them, they pay people $1 to sit and watch the videos of what happens in the factory farms. And I think that is such a powerful, powerful thing to do because people don't know simply because they haven't looked for it. That's changing, but that has been the reality for quite some time. So anyway, so I started learning, I had thought before I was vegan, well, eggs aren't bad, you're not hurting a chicken. Why can't you eat eggs? And I honestly had no idea what they did with the male chicks, grinding them up. And I was so horrified when I learned about that and, thought, my God, thank God I'm not eating that anymore. I don't ever want to eat that again. So, and even I used to think, oh, well, cheese isn't bad. You're not hurting the cow. And I had no idea about what they're doing in the factory farms, the conditions the cows are kept in, the way the calves are taken away and the moms are crying. Like, I just didn't know about that stuff. I mean, willfully didn't know. I could have known.
Yeah, same here.
So what I do now and my mission with yummyplants.com is really to inspire people that it's really easy to start eating vegan, that it's yummy, that they have options, that it's joyful, it's a celebration, it's not limiting, it's not a sacrifice, it's fabulously fun and cool and hip, and there's so many yummy things to eat. And I really base that on my experience where and people are coming to veganism for so many different reasons, some for health, some for ethical reasons, some for the environment, so many reasons. I think each of us reaches a different audience, and all I can do is speak my story. And so I founded that website and community really just to help people see how joyful it could be, inspiring people that these are no sacrifice substitutions, that it's just as yummy, and showing people how to make delicious meals, to give them the opportunity to just stop doing what they're doing the way they've always done it and start thinking about things. There's a lot of other great organizations who are looking at things from the animal ethics side.
Well, I think it's great. I mean, and there's a huge point here in terms of making this message so that it can be actually digested by the public. It's making it, something that the public wants to be interested in, and avoiding this tendency of, you start talking about these issues to someone and they get kind of glossy-eyed and they just block it out. So this is the big challenge I see. It's communicating it without being ostracized, without being, considered an alien. So I love what you're saying. It's very powerful.
And I want to meet people where they are. I mean, at 21, I was eating cheesesteaks. Was I a horrible person and cruel and unkind? Yes, I guess you could argue that I was, but no, I wasn't. I was ignorant. And that doesn't mean I was a horrible person. I was ignorant. And I think if someone had judged me for who I was at that time, I would not have responded to that. What I would have responded to was somebody saying, you know what? I can show you how to make something that's cheaper, easier, has zero cholesterol, and you're going to love it. Let me show you how to make it. And that I would have responded to. And that's what I want to be in this world. I want to inspire people to create positive change from where they are right now.
I love it. And I think, too, you're pointing to a very broad issue, which is that most people are raised on these traditional foods, and there's a lot of sentimental connection, not necessarily even a healthy taste connection. And there's this transition that occurs when you go into a vegan diet where your taste buds kind of change, and then you realize what things are supposed to taste like naturally.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of shifting out of this this tradition and habit of eating highly fat, high protein even, and also highly modified foods. You could say we kind of unnaturally were trained to think these foods were normal. And,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, and there's medical evidence, like you said, that your taste buds do change. That's why I always encourage people, give up the easy things first, because as you do that, your taste buds will change, and you'll find that it'll get easier and easier and easier to keep making the substitutions.
That's great. That's great. Now, while I'm here, just briefly, what did you learn along the way in terms of environmental damage caused by an animal-based diet?
I'm not an expert in this field, so the limited knowledge that I have is limited. But, I do understand that we are really using so many resources to feed animals to feed people. We're using so much water. I know that it takes an enormous amount of arable land and water to raise animals that are used for slaughter. And if we could use that arable land and water to feed people directly, we would be able to end a lot of the hunger issues. I don't have the actual numbers and statistics, but there's a great book called Healthy Planet, Healthy World. Okay. And it was written by a management consultant who essentially talks about those kinds of issues. And it's a wonderful, wonderful book.
Excellent, excellent reference. Okay, why don't I do this before I forget? You've already mentioned your channel, Yummy Plants, and that's your YouTube channel. That's Yummy Space Plants, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then yummyplants.com is the website, and there's a forum where people can ask questions, and it's basically a vegan food information portal. So it has restaurants and a whole bunch of recipes, lifestyle information. What do you do when you're out on the town? It has holiday candy things. We're going to have a Halloween special that tells you all the kind of vegan candy you can use. So it's like a lifestyle portal from a food perspective. It's got tons of information, travel. And then here's my book. I don't know if you can see it. Yay. Yeah. It came out in July. I'm so grateful to have this into the world to show people how easy it is to be vegan. It really is easy to start eating vegan. You can read this book in an hour and know what to do. It has information how to stock your vegan pantry. It has recipes. It has protein information. It's really pretty. It has lots of colors and charts. Yay. So you can get this on yummyplants.com or on Amazon too. And also Vegan Essentials. They just started carrying it.
Wonderful, wonderful. And can you tell us a little bit about the genesis of that book and the process of publishing it? Did you publish it yourself? Did you have to spend a lot of money to do that? Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was really a labor of love, and I actually am going into the second printing now, so I'm excited. Yay, we've got some updates. So I had been speaking domestically and a couple international things for the last 2 years as the founder of yummyplants.com, and basically giving this talk called the Yummy Plants 101, Easy Transition Tips for a Vegan Diet. And when I spoke at Paris Vegan Day last year, somebody had asked when the book was coming out, because I think normally you write the book and then you do the speaking tour. But I had already been speaking for a couple of years, and it really hadn't occurred to me to write a book because I wrote a website, like not just a blog. It's like this huge website with tons of information to help people get started eating a vegan diet. And so I hadn't really thought about writing a book. But I realized that it's hard to travel to all of these festivals and reach people. And I had people come up to me after they'd heard my talk and tell me they had terrible arthritis, nothing had worked, they were definitely going vegan, and they had come to my talk in a different city just to thank me and tell me that they were all better now.
That's
and
great.
It was huge. And I thought, well, what if I could share my story in a more meaningful way that's packaged where anybody can get it? So if I can't travel somewhere, I can reach so many more people. And so that was really what inspired me to write the book. And it really is based on my talk, but it has a lot more information, and it has a lot of really easy vegan recipes that, take half an hour, so that whether you're an experienced cook or you're a college student just learning to cook for yourself for the first time, you can make really easy, delicious vegan recipes. So I did publish it myself. Myself being Montera Media, who is the company that owns Yummy Plants, but I own Yummy Plants, so transitive property, I published the book. And I had the artist who illustrated the Yummy Plants website illustrate the book, and somebody I'd been working with for many years do the layout of the book. I own a document translation company, and a wonderful layout person that I'd worked with for years did that part of it. And a great printer company in South Carolina that I'd worked with for many years. And so just really all these people that I had worked with in different parts of my life came together to help me do this book project. And it's been such a gift and an honor.
Wonderful. And is there an ebook version of this?
There may be. The reason there's no Kindle version is the illustrations are stunning and you can't put them in the Kindle. And I'm working on making a version for the iPad, but that has not happened yet. So right now you really are looking at a print version that you can get at various places online, yummyplants.com, amazon.com, Vegan Essentials, and there's some stores on the West Coast carrying it.
Okay. Now, you mentioned this briefly. Can you tell us how did you start this? You have a translation company? What's that all about?
I do. It's called RJG Translation. It's very creative, right? I started it right out of business school because I had a ridiculous amount of student loan debt. And even though I had a really good job, it was an incredible burden. And my parents are entrepreneurs, and I was trying to think of some business that I could do to pay off my student loans. And I speak... At that time, I only spoke Spanish. Now I speak a bunch of languages. But I thought I could do Spanish translations and, do it on the side and pay off my student loans a little quicker.
Yeah.
But I realized I was a terrible translator, but I was a great marketer and a really good boss. So I hired a team of people who were really excellent translators. And a lot of those people still work for me today. Who do the translation. So I have an entire team of native speakers who actually do the document translations. We don't do simultaneous. We only do written. And every project has a team of 2 native speakers, professional translators working on it. So the quality control is really good. And for me, it's been fun.
Neat. So. Very interesting. Okay. So I'm going to throw a couple of items at you which are health related. And I just want you to give me your personal perspective on them. The first is vitamin B12.
So I do take a vitamin B12 supplement. It's the only thing you can't get on a vegan diet. You can get all of your other nutrients. A lot of things that are vegan products have B12 supplementation in them. The non-dairy milks, the non-dairy yogurts do have that. But just to be safe, because the consequences of not taking it are permanent and cause damage, I do take a B12 supplement.
Okay. And what's your take on water? Do you try to drink extra water during the day? Are you concerned about that? Do you just drink when you're thirsty?
Well, what I should do and what I do are 2 different things, Paul.
That's all right.
I should drink, what are you supposed to drink, 8 glasses of water a day at least?
I don't know if I agree with that, but that's one suggestion, yeah.
I have read that, let me say. And again, I'm not a doctor. These are things that are just out there that people say.
Right.
I should drink more water than I do drink, that I know. I usually just drink when I'm thirsty. I think I should at least try to drink a whole big glass of water at every meal, and I don't always do that. So, but I should. So people that are listening to this should not do what I do. They should research for themselves what is the appropriate amount of water to drink and make sure they do that.
Yeah, and I would add here, though, that if you are eating a lot of fruit and a lot of fresh vegetables, you're getting a lot of water content in your diet. So
that is definitely true. So it does depend on really what you're eating. And if you're soaking your grains too, that makes a big difference. It really does depend what you're eating.
Okay. All right. And how about sleep? Do you make a point to get 8 hours? Do you just do you use an alarm to get up? What's your take on sleep?
I'm a really busy lady. I have 3 jobs, so I don't get as much sleep as I would like to have. I definitely use an alarm, but I do know that when I was doing raw, I definitely did not need as much sleep as I needed when I'm not doing raw. So I think each of us sort of needs to pay attention to our own sort of rhythm depending on what we're eating. I think as we eat things that are less difficult for our bodies to process, at least in my experience, I found I didn't need as much sleep.
Okay. All right. Now this is.
What's your thoughts about that?
What? Pardon?
How's that been for you?
Sleep. I have to confess, I usually stay up pretty late. I usually wake up fairly early, so I don't always get 8 hours. I do think it's important. I like not using an alarm. I don't use an alarm, but I kind of wake up early anyway. So I don't know what I think about it. I think what you're saying is true, that the cleaner the diet, the less sleep you need.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some people are big on just sleeping as much as they can. I'm kind of a listen to the body person. So if I'm thirsty, I drink water. If I'm tired, I'll sleep. But I probably don't drink enough water, and I probably don't sleep enough. So anyway, so let me ask you. Let's see, where are we going to go next? Oh yes,
time check. I probably have 10 more minutes. Just
okay,
so
that's good to know. All right, you alluded to something which I'd like to hear your impression on, and that is you've spent some time as a cooked vegan and some time as a raw vegan. So can you compare for us issues you had on either of those, health consequences of either of those?
Sure. I will tell you, I did an experiment where I went vegan one whole day a week for 3 months. And I felt great. On my raw days, I had a ton of energy. I looked great. Well, I mean, let me just preface with this by saying I didn't have health problems when I started this experiment. I didn't look bad, and I didn't feel bad, and I wasn't overweight. So I don't want to say, oh, I lost 50 pounds and I was obese and then I wasn't. That's not what I'm saying. I felt great. I was doing an experiment just to see what would happen if I tried raw.
So just to clarify, Rebecca, this was 6 days a week raw and 1 day cooked?
No, 6 days a week cooked and 1 day raw.
Okay.
So I didn't even go, I've never been a fully raw vegan.
Okay.
But what I can say is the 1 day a week that I went raw, I felt great. I mean, really great. I think I only needed like 4 hours of sleep. I just felt wonderful. I had so much energy. I looked great. I thought I would feel like the next day my skin looked even better. But, it didn't look horrible before or anything. But I just felt like it was a little more radiant. Let me say it that way. And I probably was getting more hydration because I was getting a lot from the fruits and vegetables, as you mentioned earlier. But these were the things that made it difficult. And these are not insurmountable issues. I think if it were a priority for me, I would have made time to do it. So I'm not discouraging people from doing it. I didn't want to continue on with that or extend it as part of my lifestyle, but I do still incorporate a lot of raw foods into my diet, even though I'm not completely raw. I was hungry often, probably because I didn't know what I was doing. And if you had a book like Choosing Raw or looked at Gina Hamshaw's blog or looked at your blog and information in your videos about how to do it right, then probably you're not hungry all the time. But I didn't really know what I was doing, and so I would encourage people who are exploring that to set themselves up for success and get some good recipes and make sure they know what to do that's filling and complex carbohydrates so that they're not hungry all the time. So I just found like I was eating all the time on my raw days. And if I were going to do that again, I would try to learn a little bit more before I did it to make sure that I was doing it right.
Yeah. Well, I think that's interesting because I think people that do eat raw, they do spend more time eating than folks that eat cooked food, and that's something to consider. So I know we don't have much time. I'd like if you could to talk a little bit more about living this way and how to integrate it into your relationships with folks that are not living this way. So it sounds like perhaps your mom has maybe become vegan because of your influence, possibly?
Yes. Well, I think, and again, each of us is going to resonate with different people. Each of us has our own story to tell. So when people ask me, well, what's the best way to talk to people about it? I do say, tell your story because that's your story. So I live my life as an ambassador of a healthy, vibrant, happy person. And a lot of times people ask me about a vegan diet because they want to learn about it. I'm doing well on it, and so they want to learn more about it. The reason my mom actually switched to a vegan diet is the very first person I ever interviewed for YummyPlants.com was Dr. Neil Barnard. And the interview was all about the health benefits of a vegan diet. And my mother, who's an amazing professional writer, and when I wrote stories about famous people, she would write them. Like, I would give her my notes and she would write them because she's a lot better than me. And so what happened is she read the notes about the health benefits of a vegan diet, and part of it was about weight loss. And my mother's a beautiful woman. She certainly was not obese, but she thought, oh, I've been trying to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to do this. And she went vegan. And she's been vegan ever since. It's been like 4 years.
Wow. Okay. Now, since you mentioned weight loss there, I wonder if you could address very quickly, and you tell me when you have to go.
Sure.
Apparently there's a phenomena when people go vegan where if they're having relatively high starch or even simple sugar intake, they're not losing weight like they would if, say, they went on a paleo program. So could you maybe talk a little bit about this?
I can tell you the only thing I know about weight loss and a vegan diet, and it's from the interview with Dr. Barnard. I actually don't know the answer to that question that you specifically asked. What I do know is if you're eating whole fruits and vegetables, I'm going to go to the other extreme because this is the only thing I know. If you're actually already thin, because a lot of people have a concern, I'm already thin, I don't want to go vegan, I don't want to look emaciated. And Dr. Barnard had talked about you only lose fat, you don't lose lean muscle mass. So if you're already thin and you only have lean muscle mass, you're not going to lose more weight. In terms of you're trying to lose weight, I would always recommend people to talk to a nutrition and a healthcare practitioner. Everybody does have different body chemistry, and Brendan Brazier talked one time about how some people's bodies run on protein, some people's bodies run on carbs, some people's bodies run on fat. I don't know enough about that to even talk to somebody in an educated way, but I would definitely encourage people to talk to somebody who really is trained in that way and does know.
Okay. All right. Are there any other sites that you would like to tell the viewers about? For example, do you have a Facebook page? Do you have a Twitter? Do you use those?
Yes, thank you. We do a Facebook page. It's just facebook.com/yummyplants. Twitter, I think, is just twitter.com/yummyplants. What else are we on? There is a small, we do have a presence on Pinterest. YouTube, we have a lot of videos. There's recipe videos. There's some travel videos telling you where to find soy lattes in Paris and how to get to Antarctica as a vegan. So there's a lot of good information about travel. And
what's your take on alcohol? Do you ever have a glass of wine?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay. And can I ask you real quick, in developing these recipes, how does that come about? Do you find other vegan recipes and then try them yourself and then kind of rework them in ways that you like, or are you sometimes simply just using someone else's recipe and then redoing it? Or tell us about that.
Different ways for different things. A lot of the recipes in the book actually come from a very old French cookbook from the 1800s that are adapted to make them vegan. My mother's an amazing French cook. She cooked in a traditional French way until she went vegan. And so after she went vegan, she veganized a lot of these old French recipes, and they're wonderful. So no, I don't take other people's recipes and like change one ingredient and say, oh, this is mine. Like that I do not do. But except maybe these French ones from a person who passed away in the 1800s. But, these are my recipes, and many of them are still up on the Yummy Plants website. Like apple compote is one of the ones that was originally on the website, came in the book, and it's still up. And there's, I think there's some other ones that are still on the website. But, honestly, I'm not a chef. I'm a regular person, just like half the people out there watching this video. And so the recipes are really easy. They don't have that many ingredients. They don't take that much time. Some of them are one-pot meals. And it really is just to say, look, I can make healthy, delicious meals that are good for me, for my body, for the environment, and for the animals. And you can too. And you don't have to be a chef or have special training in order to be able to do that.
Love it. Love it. And we'll end it there, Rebecca, unless there's any last points you want to add. I think we're out of time. So.
Nope. That'd be great. I appreciate your time. It was so nice to chat with you, Paul. And for everybody watching, I really hope that you enjoy the book. Bye.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Take care.
Bye.